Good evening, everybody. Hello, my name is Mitchell, and this is my second entrance into a weird sampling project. Thank you, Christian, for putting these on. They're always a lot of fun, and I've learnt a lot along the way. Please excuse my terrible voice this evening. Monitoring on headphones, and I can't hear my microphone in here, and I just got my braces put on the other day. So, slurring my words a little bit unsure of exactly where my teeth and tongue are most of the time, and it's a bit weird, something different for me. So I'm here tonight to work on the bagpipe tuning up sample project. Should be a bit of fun. I think I've got an idea of how I want to approach it. So let's get started. So this is the sound here that I've just brought in, just downloaded off the WeTransfer. It is, what's that, 50 seconds worth of audio? That should be plenty. So one of the things that I like to do early on is just listen through it. I'm sure nobody wants to hear too much more. It's pretty rough. But what I'm going to do is just thinking about how big the sound is. It's a pretty broad spectrum. There's drums, there's the bagpipes, there's street noise, there's all this stuff going on. I like to use the Logic EQ to just have a look. I don't have a special spectrum analyzer. I don't know if there's one on here or not. But a fairly broad sound there. So all the way across. It's just interesting at this stage to listen through what some of those bits are. So I'm going to set this to be really quite narrow and just, try and isolate some things. So some of that's quite pretty tough on the ears, actually. So what I was thinking is because it's such a broad spectrum and there's all this going on, what I would do is I would go back to EXS and then use the sine wave generator that's in there. Just there's no sound on this at all yet. And when you load it up with nothing on it, it just gives you this really plain kind of just a pure sine wave. It's pretty fat sort of sine wave. It's got a little bit of something to it. It's not super pure, but I think it's clean enough for what I'm going to do. So my first thought was, if I go on here and I open up the same EQ on this channel and I look at that there, so I'm playing whatever note I'm playing. Let's start with a C. That there is the frequency of a C. So if we get that, skinny this right down and pull that up, we get quite a pungent kind of sine wave. There's a little bit of harmonics in there because of the EQ, which I think is interesting. But then we can pull everything else out and only be left with that. I'm pretty sure we can just do this all the way across. This is going to ruin the sound quite significantly, but it's this curve just here that we need to keep, because that's our bit. That's our guy. So I'm going to make these as wide as they can be. All of them all the way across, super wide. I'm sure there's a technical term for this, but I don't know what it is, and I don't care. But it's really just super removing everything except this frequency, and I'm sure. So that's where it's loudest. So 1040. So EQ'd, and then without the EQ it's quite clean, and then with the EQ it's there. So that's a C. If we go to say a G with the EQ off, it's the same thing. So with the EQ on, that G is like heaps quieter. And we can see there on the analyzer, that's where the different notes all are on the spectrum. So I think that's interesting, and we'll come back to that. So then what I'm going to do is, listening to this sound, because it's so broad spectrum, I think we can apply that same EQ curve just to the note we want, and we can just leave everything where it is, and I think that'll give us an interesting result. What I'm going to do first, because there's all this stuff going on, it's irregular, it's not repeating, it's got no sort of pattern to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to take this same sound and I'm going to put it down in a few places, and I'm just going to move it just a bit, this much. Again, no pattern to that, and then I'm going to pan it. So I'll leave one in the middle, one to the left, one in the middle, one to the right, and then when we play that back, it's even broader and it's super wide, and some of those sort of natural things that happen in the audio itself, the way it sort of goes up and down, they kind of move from side to side, but I don't think that's in itself a very big deal. That's with no reverb or anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim them all to the same length. So there's all sort of stuff going on. You can probably hear it a bit left and right. It's a bit crazy, but that's okay. I think that's what we want. It to be slightly different. And here, where the sound really changes, this is quite late in the note. It's like 40 seconds in, so it's quite a bit of time from beginning to end. I'm going to go back to this EQ here, and I'm going to drag this EQ across to here, and here, and here. And now when I play this back, this should be just... it's a lot narrower. It's a lot narrower. And then what we can do is, because we can repeat these, we can make that sound even bigger. And because it's always the same, we can just keep copying it down. And we've got that. It's just a whistle. It sounds like a whistle to me. So it's getting more extreme every time we do it. And I think that's kind of a cool effect. And let's bounce that down. Offline, or include audio tail. I don't know what any of these mean. It doesn't really matter. We're going to save it to Bagpipes. We're going to call it C. I don't know what that is. C test 1. I'm just going to go back to make sure I put in the right thing. I didn't. I actually put it in a different folder. Just going to save that. I've put it in. Put in the wrong folder. Let's go back to Spitfire, Piano Book, Bagpipes, C test 1, bounce. We'll wait for that. So that's our sound from before. I think it's set to C. So that's what we had before. That's our tone from before. And I've got my little keyboard down here. You can't see it. So we can do that. So it's pretty noisy. There's that high-pitched hiss. That's really what I wanted to hear. So I quite like the whistliness of that. I quite like the whistliness of that. It's like somebody going, which I ironically can't do now that I've got braces on. So, and because of the sound of the original source recording being irregular, it's got that sort of waver to it, which I think is quite nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and put another EQ in and really pull a lot of the just the top end down, so it's not quite so a bit noisy on the top. But I really like that just so far. It's really quite nice. If we go right down, let's, you know. You can really hear those sort of clicks and pops and sort of, I guess it's snare drum and people walking around and that kind of thing. In these really slowed down ones, I like it. It's quite nice. So that's that there. So we can get rid of that. And I quite like EXS that it stays open like this, because we're essentially just going to reuse this some more. And here's where we can get really experimental. It's got quite a nice kind of... I think I'd like to... Yeah, I think some of these, because it's not as pulled down here, maybe we can grab this one and pull it up a bit higher. So what we've got to do now is make sure that this it definitely sounds less whistly. How to listen to this one. Again, it's quite whistly, very airy. It's got that at the top, being the technical term for it. So I'm going to get rid of that one, and then I'm going to load in the second one, which has got the much more extreme EQ. It's going to be set to C5 we were before. And it's probably too pure. It's too close to the to just being a sine wave, so we've gone too far with it. So that's fine. We can go back and have another go. So this strategy, I think, because it works because we've got such a broad spectrum signal, I think. So again. Just solo this for a sec. So it's still got a bit of that sort of crackliness to it. So we're going to get this, drag it down again. It was 3 last time, wasn't it? going to do the classic guitarist thing and put a bit of distortion on, just a little. So I'm going to try, I'm just going to mute these two, so I've just got the center one. And I'm just going to try a bit of Amp Designer, because this is, I think, the best way to do a whole bunch of different stuff. Pick one, right? Just to give it a bit of thickness, just a little bit of thickness. It just takes off some of that real like piercing kind of sine wavy bit. Do a little bit of this. Again, just to give it a bit of wobble. Bit of that microphone effect. And I think that's probably just enough. It's got a bit more grit to it, which I quite like. And so what I'm going to do from here is almost just leave it as it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just set a few volume layers, and I'm going to do that with the Amp Designer, essentially. So the bottom, if we go and switch Amp Designer off, and bounce that. Call it PP. We'll go and we'll switch it on. We'll call that Bagpipes M. And then we'll double the Amp Designer. We'll go 2 of those on each track, because that'll just be ridiculous. And that's what we like. That's what I like anyhow. So 2, 2, 2. Holy moly. And so we'll bounce that. Low power. Medium power. I'll put a link down below to where you can download this from. I'll also put a link to my Rusty Gate video, and I'll also request please like and subscribe and all that sort of nonsense that we have to do these days. I do have a piano book submission coming up, which should be fairly interesting. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully it helps you, and hopefully you've learned something. I learned a little bit in this process, and see you next time. Thank you.